Succulents are a really popular plant. What's great about them is that they come in so many variations, sizes, shapes, yet they're a great low maintenance plant. Hi, I'm Hilton Carter, and today I'm gonna show you everything you need to know about how to care for your succulents. Today we're gonna cover how to identify a healthy succulent, proper potting, soil, fertilizer, when and how to water, the best type of light for your succulent plant, how to propagate a succulent plant, and all of those special care and maintenance tips on how to keep that succulent plant growing and thriving in your home. One good thing about them is that they are a desert plant. You find them in so many areas of the world except for Antarctica because they can thrive in spaces where there isn't a lot of moisture, mainly deserts. So for you, they are great for, I'll say, beginners because they're not gonna ask so much of your time when it comes to water, but they will require a lot of light. There are so many different types, whether it's a crown of thorns, a string of pearls, string of watermelon, maybe it's a jade, maybe it's an aloe vera, or maybe it's a Mexican ball. So many different types of succulents out there that you can bring into your home. Now, when it comes to searching for a beautiful succulent, a healthy succulent, what you want to look for is foliage, the type of foliage that is reminiscent to a healthy plant. Green. When it comes to succulents, you want things that are plump. They're also going to have different sort of looks based on how much light they get. So sometimes you might have a little reddish hue around the edge of your succulents. Some of them will turn a bit more orange, almost look yellow as if they are overwatered, but when your succulents get overwatered, they get soft and squishy. That yellowing can take place based on light, which can be a good sign for that plant as well. Some of them bloom, like this one here, and develop flowers as well. But you're looking for nice, plump foliage as a sign of good health and good color. Always look out for new growth because new growth is a sign that that plant is very healthy and is going to push out new growth once at home. So now that you have your succulent, or maybe you decide to pick out a few, now let's take a look at the right soil and pot that can really help your plant grow and thrive. So if you're looking for a more detailed guide on how to repot your succulents, take a look at my chapter on repotting plants. But when it comes to succulents, understanding the pot, understanding the soil, and how to provide them with the right of both is important because you want to make sure that you're providing these plants with a pot that will help them grow and thrive. The best type of pot for any succulent would be a more porous container like this terracotta pot, or maybe a cement pot, concrete or clay pot, something that is more breathable, that can allow moisture to be pulled to the size of the actual pot itself and allowing for that soil to dry up at the appropriate amount of time. And you always want to make sure, if you are going to get a planter like this, to always have a drainage hole. A drainage hole will allow that moisture to escape out of that pot and into a base tray, leaving your roots dry as they actually would love to be. The best thing about succulents is that they definitely don't want you to overwater them. So you can spend that time caring for your other plants. But to help them in the process of removing all of that moisture from that soil, you want to make sure that you have the proper soil mixture. Now, if you're out at a plant shop or nursery, you might find an entire bag that just says succulent and cacti soil. That's a perfect thing to add to your plant. But if you're someone who's looking to make your own mixture, here are a few things you'll actually need. Fresh potting mix. Organic potting mix is really great just because it'll have all the nutrients you need for that actual plant. That's good. You'll want to bring in additives like vermiculite, or like I have here, perlite. These little white beads, these help to pull moisture away from soil. You might find those in your organic mix, but just slightly here and there. But you want to bring more of this to a sort of succulent cactus to help draw that moisture away from your soil. And lastly, what we have here is some sand, and of course sand to help pull moisture away. For me, in any succulent that I'm putting together, it'll be about 70% potting mix, nicely sprinkled in there, and 20% of some perlite, and that last 10% would be from your sand, of course. And when you mix these all together, as you can see here, it becomes a bit more breathable. Everything kind of falls apart as I bring it up in my hands, as I'm mixing it all together, versus what would happen when I would grab just a handful of soil like this. You can see it's all clumpy, kind of still sticks together, but when you add all of those ingredients, sand, perlite, it becomes a bit more grainy, allowing for moisture to escape through it so that your roots aren't stuck with a bunch of moisture around them so that your succulent can thrive. Now, when we're working with the soil, you're gonna be providing your plant with this great mixture. And when you have fresh soil, it's adding to all of the goodness, the nutrients that that plant needs. But after that year of watering that plant repeatedly, over and over again, you're washing out all of the nutrients that that plant needs to grow. So you're gonna have to start fertilizing it. You can use a liquid fertilizer. You can use capsules. You can actually add fresh soil to your actual plant by removing some of that old soil and adding nutrient-rich soil like this here. Adding that to your pot can also fertilize it. So what's great about plants that don't require a lot of moisture is that you know for a fact you want their soil to become completely dry. So you're not gonna be sticking your fingers in the soil to check the moisture level. You probably won't have a moisture meter. You can now style that plant by covering that soil with so many different things. You can use stones, you can use marbles, Legos, or you can use shells if you want. You can get real creative to make that plant unique for you. But it gives that plant a better quality, a better look, which is pretty cool. Now that our succulents are potted and fertilized, let's talk about how to care for them, starting with watering. What's wonderful about your succulents is that they are drought tolerant. You get away with maybe watering them every 2-3 weeks come spring and summer. And when we are watering them, you wanna make sure that you are watering them deep. Now, when it comes to noticing qualities of a well-watered succulent, one that you can just leave alone, is plump foliage. This particular aloe here, when it is good to go, it'll be thick and plump. But if you start to see it wrinkle up a bit, that is a sign that it probably wants some moisture. It's begging you, hey, give me a drink now. But when you see any foliage starting to get real soft and mushy like that, that is a clear sign that this particular succulent here is being overwatered. Look how easily that came off that plant, and look at how soft and gooey this particular leaf is. Now, when you're ready to water that plant, give it a break. You're gonna give it, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? When you're ready, you'll know the soil will be completely dry, which it should be. And like all your other plants, you're gonna make sure that you water them with lukewarm water and thoroughly. But you wanna be gentle. Love your plant friend. Make your way around there slow and steady, nice and gentle. Just like this. And what you wanna do is you wanna wait and watch and see as moisture starts to escape into my base tray, as you can see there. Now, I'm gonna let that build up. Hopefully it won't fill up the entire base tray, but I'm gonna let it sit there for about 15-30 minutes, just in case the soil didn't pull up all the moisture that it needed. If there's still water in that base tray after 30 minutes, I'm gonna remove my plant from the base tray, dispose that water, then put my base tray back. Because here's the thing, you do not want to leave any succulents in moisture, in water. That will create root rot and kill that plant right away, and all of your foliage will look exactly like this one does here, soft, gooey, and there is no returning from this. It'll just die, so just be aware of that. Now, let's get to the most important thing your succulent needs, light. Gotta love outdoor light. So much sun, so much goodness. It's the right climate for me and right climate for these succulents here. When you're trying to find the best type of light for them outdoors, it's pretty easy. The sun is always around. Finding the right light for them indoors, that's where it's important. When it comes to a succulent, succulents love bright, direct sun, but will also really thrive in a spot that gets indirect light. When it comes to over-saturation of sunlight, you might start to see their foliage kind of get a bit crispy on the edges, but more than likely indoors, that's something you won't see. The lack of light, that will truly become an issue. When they are not getting the right type of light, you will start to see them turn brown on the edges or start to see them curl up and your foliage start to fall from your plant. So just be aware of that. Consider them as they are and try to mimic their natural habitat in your home or outside. Given that they're a desert plant, they love a drier climate. So when you style them in your home, try grouping them with other like-minded plants, cacti, snake plants, ZZ plants, other plants that love that dry climate. You won't be missing these plants. If you're looking for a more detailed guide on how to find the light in your home, please watch our chapter on light. So when it comes to caring for your succulents, there's a lot of things that you're gonna have to do regarding routine maintenance. One of those things could just be rotation of your succulent, making sure that all sides get light so they can all thrive together and become balanced. But you also wanna make sure that you're cleaning your plants off as well. When it comes to succulents, because they're so small, you wanna be delicate with those plants. You can get yourself an air blower, condensed air, whatever you have to help you remove dust quickly in between your foliage. That can bring more light to the tissue of your foliage. Now, if you have, let's say, a Mexican ball, like this one here, that's a bit more delicate, you can take a cotton swab, dip it in a little water, and just be real delicate. Go around the edges of your foliage here, just cleaning it up. And speaking of cleaning up your plants, pruning is a good way to make your plants more presentable. My aloe here has a bit of dryness around the edges. That's what happens in nature, but I wanna make it more presentable in my home. I could prune back the edges here, and it just looks a bit better than it did a second ago. Now, there are opportunities in pruning where you can utilize that moment where you're removing foliage to then propagate that plant, like this Mexican ball. When it comes to propagation of your succulent, some of them are just leaf cut propagation. And when we're talking about leaf cut, I'm saying getting right in there, taking a leaf, maybe pulling it away from the base of the actual plant itself, and then placing it on top of, let's say, some succulent soil. You can take pieces from your jade plant and just pulling at the base, being gentle, but pulling it off. As you can see, removed, and then placing it on top of your soil like that. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna water and make sure that the top layer of that soil stays moist. So this is something you're probably gonna have to revisit daily, making sure that the top layer stays moist. And over time, as it starts to cook up, what you should start to see, as you can see from my little jade leaf here, is over time you'll start to see roots make their way out of the top end where you made that cut. And from those roots will then dig their way down into the soil. And from the cut end of that leaf, a new little succulent pup will start to form. And now you'll have a new member to your plant family. We covered what was important for care of your succulent plants, whether that was figuring out when and how to water them, finding the proper light for your succulent, and also how to propagate a succulent plant. Now, with all of this information, all of this knowledge, you now have the tools to properly maintain your plants, to give them everything they need, and to make you a wonderful plant parent.